Hey there, welcome to another Wednesday live stream. Today we're going to be talking about Google's newly hyped tool, NotebookLM. So let's get started. First of all, what is exactly NotebookLM? That's a product that's kind of risen from Google Labs. It was led by Reza Martin, and it's not entirely like a brand new product. It's been online for a while, but what made it stand out from the maybe similar, if there's any app, I'm trying to think of one, applications, is that it has this really nice, neat audio summary feature. That's kind of what made it so popular on platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn, and people are just kind of nonstop talking about it. It started as a 20% project, which is essentially a time where if you work for Google, you have 20% of your entire working hours to do whatever you want, to do what you're passionate about, like any project that you would personally care to develop. And this one started as a 20% project. It was incubated from so-called AI Test Kitchen, and it uses LLMs, like large language models, to interact with your data, like with your documents. So the early team was just Reza, one engineer, and one designer, Steven Johnson. And as such a small team, they managed to build a really good product. This is not so much about technology, it's about how the technology feels as a product when you use it. So the key features of NotebookLM is that it's kind of an AI interface to interact with your data. So right now it's mainly text. Well, there's a caveat. I mean, it can't accept a YouTube video URL as a source data, but it needs to be transcribed. And I believe it only works well with English language right now. So it basically converts any type of document like resumes, papers, into engaging audio content. And this is the feature that they call audio overviews. It kind of generates podcast-like summaries from documents. So some of the use cases that we're going to see today are turning resumes into AI-generated audio, and that is as much as fun as, maybe more fun than it is useful. But if you try it, and I've seen comments online and heard that when people feed their kind of resume, like PDF, their CV, to this tool, and the tool generates like a 6 or maybe 8 minute podcast style audio from it, it genuinely boosts their confidence, because when you think about yourself, it's probably not that much flattering. You are what you are from your own perspective, but this tool brings kind of the kind of hyped tone to the content that you feed it. So it's really fun to list something like that. We're going to try that in a second. Another use case is that students can use NotebookLM to create study guides from notes. And another use case that we're going to see today is maybe a professional use of NotebookLM to create some custom content summaries that you can use for work. So we'll have a resume example just a second. All right, I've switched to the NotebookLM view. As a side note, NotebookLM is not going to work for you if you're in Serbia like I am, because Serbia is sadly not one of the countries currently supported by this tool. So I'm using VPN to be able to access the NotebookLM. Now, let's first see what NotebookLM did when I uploaded my CV. So let's check it out. Okay, so this is the source that I fed it. It's just a PDF generated straight off from a LinkedIn. By the way, you can find this in anyone's profile. This is profile of my friend Nemanja. And if you want to generate a PDF from his profile data, you just go to more and then save to PDF. But I fed it my data, and let's see what it generated. One of the features, all kind of top features are hidden here. So there's this notebook guide button, which you can use to access these kind of shortcuts, which generate FAQs, study guide, table of contents, timeline, or briefing docs. And also it generates this audio overview. So yeah, since this is kind of the most fun to listen, let's start with an audio overview.
All right, ready for another deep dive? Today we're strapping on our spelunking gear and exploring the depths of a LinkedIn profile.
Gotta love a good LinkedIn spelunk.
Right. We're going full-on treasure hunter, looking for the story behind the story. And let me tell you, our subject today, Tihomiro Pejcik, has a fascinating story to unearth.
Oh, for sure. You see AI consultant at the top and think, okay, got it. But then you start digging, and even just those early experiences.
See, this is what I love. You never know what you'll find. So spill the tea. What caught your eye in those early days?
That blend of tech and art, right off the bat, center group, 3D animation, sound design. That's not your usual techie starter pack. Shows he was flexing those creative muscles early on.
And then, just to shake things up, we've got electrical and power transmission installation. Talk about hands-on. I'm picturing him rewiring a power grid, brainstorming animation ideas at the same time.
All
Right,
so
that combo of
you can
big
see that
picture
it kind
thinking
of
and not being afraid to get your hands
the
dirty. It's
past of
unusual
my
and honestly
work
kind of
experiences
powerful.
and works its
Makes
way
you wonder,
towards, like,
did those
some
animation projects, did they
most recent
influence
ones.
how he
Let's
approached web
just
design later? Did all that electrical
bit
work
forward.
really interesting? You know, what gets me about Orange Hill GmbH, it's not just a company, is it? It's like a testament. 17 years in the tech world, that's like dog years. To have that kind of staying power, it's almost unheard of.
I know, right? All those tech trends come and go, but he's weathered every storm. That says something. But it's not just about sticking around, it's about what he does during that time. This is where we see the leadership skills.
Okay, so
really.
you've probably heard enough about me, but let's look at these examples. So I've generated one FAQ. So you can see that it pulled out data much like you could use any other tool like ChatGPT or whatever, maybe Perplexity or Claude to generate this, but it's here and it's easy to bring this up. Then there's this briefing guide, another form of structured content that it generates from the data that you feed into. So yeah, you can see just a quick summary of this data that you fed into NotebookLM. So let's actually try and build a new NotebookLM. So we're going to use my friend Nemanja's CV as a primary source, and then I'm going to give it another source, which is, I said to Perplexity tool, go ahead and investigate who Nemanja Čedomirović is, and it did kind of search through the web, found maybe 15, 16 different sources, and compiled some additional data about Nemanja. And then we have this as an MD document, which is also ready to be consumed by NotebookLM. So let's see what we can do. We can kick off this audio generation. This takes a bit of time, but we can then also do, I don't know, timeline. And hopefully it will read Nemanja's CV and everything and line up things for us. All right, so you can see that, yeah, you had some dates about Nemanja, what he did and what he's doing. All right, or maybe we could ask, where is Nemanja working right now? All right, so we can see a few companies that he's currently working at, organizations, etc. So you could continue to chat with the data and get some more information about Nemanja. So the audio is still generating. So let's give it a few more seconds. While we are waiting, let's look at our next example, which is NotebookLM Study Guide. So I've already uploaded this Tree of Thoughts document. So if you don't know who Alexa Gordic is, he's our, I'd say, top AI researcher. He worked at Google DeepMind, and now he's partially famous for building Hugo GPT, an LLM trained on XU data, which speaks XU languages better than any other LLM out there. And in his recent posts, like yesterday actually, he posted a two-part analysis of how OpenAI's O1 exactly work. So if you're not following Alexa and you're interested in this subject, I warmly recommend that you follow him on LinkedIn and read more about this. But in essence, he kind of read all these various different research papers and compiled a conclusion out of there. So if I was interested in any of these papers, I could just click the link and download the paper. So as a research paper, you might envision that, you know, it's not just a few pages of text, it's rather maybe 40 or 50 pages of research work. So I've downloaded this one, TOT, Tree of Thought, and let's see how NotebookLM did with Tree of Thoughts in LLM's paper. So let's imagine that I need to study this for whatever, an exam. So one thing that might be really useful is it generates a nice study guide. So it generates short answer questions, which you could use to test your knowledge about the subject. It answers, like it proposes the answer key, the essay questions, etc., etc., etc. There's a glossary of key terms. So this is really useful. Another thing that it created is a timeline. So as you can see, different content provides a timeline, which can be useful from this different perspectives. So in this case, we can see a timeline of research for LLMs, for chain of thought reasoning, prompting, which led to, I don't know, Tree of Thoughts framework introduced in May 2023, etc. Then there you have a cast of characters, so you can quickly be acquainted with the really complex theme, or really complex data that would otherwise take you maybe, I don't know, a few days to consume and make sense of. So let's see, what else did we have? We have FAQs. So FAQs are the most important questions about the content that we gave it. So you can see that it, I'd say, did a pretty good job there. Then there's table of contents, which helps you to summarize the entire data corpus that you gave it to analyze. So I'd like to remind you that you can add more sources here. I could have maybe downloaded all these research papers and feed all those papers in NotebookLM and then ask it, which is maybe what Alexa did, I don't know, ask it to make sense of how this data was used to power OpenAI's O1. And I would probably get a decent answer out of that, which again doesn't mean that I understand the subject, but it would help me to learn more and to consume the complex knowledge that it is. And there's this briefing doc, which, you know, is kind of a summary of the entire document in this case, or documents if you uploaded many. So I've also generated the Tree of Thoughts audio. So let's listen to a minute or two.
Hey there. Get ready to dive into some fascinating AI research you sent us. It's called Tree of Thoughts, or TOT, and honestly, it's got us pretty hyped up over here.
Yeah, it's a really interesting new way of thinking about how to make AI more intelligent, especially when it comes to large language models.
Right, those LLMs, the engines behind things like ChatGPT, we've all been playing with them, and they're great at what they do.
They are, but they operate on a very surface level.
Like our brains do with System 1 thinking, that fast, automatic, almost instinctual way of processing.
Exactly. Efficient, but
not always the most strategic.
Right, and that's been the issue, that AI has been kind of stuck in this linear thought process, not really planning, not really strategizing, exploring different paths to a solution like humans do.
Okay, I see the problem. So, Tree of Thoughts. This is what's going to get AI thinking more like us. Less, I don't know, cookie monster, more strategic mastermind.
That's the goal. 2T aims to give AI this missing System 2, thinking that slower, more deliberate, more strategic side that we humans tap into for complex problems.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Give me the breakdown.
Humans.
How does this even work?
Okay, so imagine you're trying to solve a problem. You start jotting down all your initial ideas. Those are like the thoughts. Now, each of those thoughts branches out into different possibilities, kind of like a tree, right?
Each branch is a different path to a potential solution.
Exactly. And the truly groundbreaking part is that 2T allows AI to explore multiple branches simultaneously, just like we do when we're weighing different options.
So instead of just
Okay, so you can see that it's another nice way to get acquainted with the content. So if you're, I don't know, running, if you're a runner, then you might want to have this audio on your phone and then, you know, just listen to this to kind of prepare your brain to consume more data later when you sit at your PC. So it's, I think, a multifaceted, let's say, way to consume data in different ways and in different formats. So another example would be the work example. So for instance, I'm investigating on how to automate certain things with Trello. We use Trello a lot in Orange Hill as a project management tool. So as you might imagine, the API documentation is pretty large, as Trello is a fairly complex system. So I wanted to know what's available for me as a developer when I would use Trello API. So we're going to listen to that, but first let's check back on our friend Nemanja here. Let's hear what it did with his CV.
All right, so today we're really diving deep into this guy Nemanja Sedimirovic.
Okay.
You've ever heard of him?
I have
that
not.
good with
So
Serbian
he is
names,
Serbian,
obviously.
and he is really big in the tech scene over there.
Okay.
And we're talking building a programming community like from scratch.
Wow.
And this is back in 2012, so not exactly
Yeah,
like
wait.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Totally different world, I would imagine.
Yeah, so that's what's so fascinating,
Yeah.
to me anyway, is how he built this up, and now it's got over 3,000 programmers in it.
Wow, impressive.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And we've got his resume,
Yeah,
which
that's
is,
PHP Serbia,
Yeah.
by
the
the
usual
way.
kind of bullet points. But
Sure.
what I found really interesting was we've also got some more in-depth research pieces
Oh, cool.
on him, and it's really more about the why, like why he does what he does.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see what someone's done, but to understand like their motivations and their drive,
Totally.
that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, and even from a young age, this guy was involved with this student organization called FONUS
Okay.
at the University of Belgrade, and it seems like that's kind of where it all began.
Interesting. So like that early exposure to sort of like a
Download this
community
audio
organizing
file
or
and
group
send it
involvement
to
kind of thing.
Nemanja.
Yeah, and they
Sounds
did a
good. I
bunch
think
of
you'll
different
like it.
projects, like social and humanitarian.
Okay, so let's go back and look at the Trello example. So what I did right here is I provided a URL, exactly this URL, and it looks like this. It's just a lot and lots of API examples for various actions, and then I could have then maybe use another batch of URLs to list them all to kind of get the total kind of 360-degree view of what Trello API could do. But as an example, I think this will do. So what I've actually done here is created a table of contents, and then I had a better overview of this relatively complex page and what it can do. So in this case, it doesn't really make sense to kind of generate the audio because, I don't know, maybe it would be funny in a way to listen to this, but I would rather go and maybe do an FAQ or something like that. So you will be able to see this in a second. Okay, so just what are Trello Power Apps and etc. etc. So this would help me to kind of get acquainted with what it can do, so that I can in my mind maybe start the design process for my application or whatever I'm building before I even read the documentation. So summarizing like this is really good for even analyzing technical documentation. Some more use cases which will not demo, but I think that you've gotten the sense of what this tool can do, are understanding complex topics of any kind, whatever is out there, whatever you're struggling with, you can feed it in here, much like you would summarize the documents in using ChatGPT, but here you can really go large. You can upload, for instance, an entire novel, and since Google's Gemini model behind this can crack, 500,000 tokens and pull the meaning out of that much data, means that this summarization is probably going to be better than if you've done it with, ChatGPT or Claude or any other LLM tool out there. So you could use it to create AI-generated podcasts that you would actually share, and there are some really good podcasts podcasts out there. One guy went through Wikipedia articles about some, fascinating kind of subjects like unexplained mysteries and stuff, and created one episode per one mystery. And it's a series of episodes available on Apple Podcast, and I think it has a fairly good traction and it's fun to listen to. Then you can for sure summarize long documents and books, summarize also long YouTube videos. You don't have to go and find captions. You just feed it the URL of the YouTube video and it will pull everything out for you. And then do a really good summarization of a YouTube video in any format that you feel is okay for you. And then it can assist with article writing and content creation. So at Google, being a large company that they're really struggling to bring back that startup culture that they once had. So this NotebookLM team is one of their, I would say, experiments on how this could work, and it proved to be working really well. Because NotebookLM team, even though it's not just 3 people anymore, it kind of functions like a startup inside Google Labs. So they are forming these small agile teams focused on rapid iteration and user feedback. And right now they have more than 60,000 members in their Discord, and they are engaging directly with users, picking up the feedback and planning the next features. So like I mentioned, they are using Gemini 1.5 LLM and some advanced audio models. It's as I understood, it's not the multimodal feature of Gemini 1.5. The audio model that generates this podcast style audio is a separate audio model, and it works really well. And they, tweaked it quite a bit until they got the mix of the tone that they currently have, etc. And you don't get to, sadly, tweak it. So this is kind of the most requested features, like give us knobs so that we can tweak the tone, tweak the length, tweak the whatever other parameters are there. But they so far refuse to do that in order to keep the tool as simple as possible. But I think that's on their roadmap. So as you might imagine, the popularity of this tool began with educators and students, but now it's being rapidly adopted by professionals and businesses. So right now, the NotebookLM team all of a sudden grew in that direction. So these business applications are emerging, and it leads to the increased demand. So they have a few people now working only with businesses right now in NotebookLM. So as their product roadmap, they envision to have what they call an editor surface for creating multi-format content. So their original vision was to kind of build a tool, a product that is able to consume any format of data and then output any format of data. So you could feed it a video and then get an audio as an output, or get another video or whatever. So this is kind of the main direction that they are going towards. But right now they will be focusing on mobile, because as we know, most people use mobile devices. I guess it would be useful for an application like this to also have a really nice mobile version. And they are focusing, as I said, on user-driven enhancements. And I think that they will add some knobs so that you could tweak the produced content even a bit more. So on the ethical AI / red teaming note, as you know, I mean, large company like Google conducts really extensive testing of any tool, any product that they put out there. And so it was with the NotebookLM product. But obviously, people being people, they will try to mess with the tool, with the product as much as they can. I will show you a fun example a bit later. So they are, really taking an effort to continuously monitor the user behavior to address certain concerns. And one of the funny moments was that I guess one guy copied the poop and fart text 1,000 times into a text document, then fed that to NotebookLM, and then it generated an audio. So let's try and play this if we could. How can I do that? Yeah, this is a YouTube video, which...
Well, listeners,
All right,
you know we love a challenge on this show, right? But gotta say, you guys have really outdone yourselves this time.
It's certainly a unique piece of source material, that's for sure.
Unique is putting it mildly. I mean, we're used to tackling all kinds of things in our deep dives, from ancient manuscripts to the latest scientific breakthroughs, even the occasional conspiracy theory, right?
You do love to go down a rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is a whole different beast. I mean, we're talking about a document that someone sent in that is literally just the words poop and fart repeated hundreds of times.
Hundreds.
No context, no explanation, just pure unadulterated repetition. So where do we even start with something like this?
Well, I think the first question we have to ask ourselves is, can we find meaning in the seemingly meaningless? Because that's what we're faced with here.
And that's a really interesting question, right? I mean, think about it. We see examples of repetition in art and language all the time. Andy Warhol's soup cans, for example, or minimalist music that's just the same few notes over and over.
Right, and those things can be surprisingly powerful, can't they?
Totally. But even in those cases, there's usually some kind of structure, some variation. This document, though, it's just...
Yeah, as you can see, it didn't flip out, and it's it's even fun to listen to. So well done NotebookLM team. So I guess that's it for today's presentation. So the key takeaways are that NotebookLM is really transforming the way we as the users, or we as users, are interacting with content through AI-powered audio summaries. So it's an impressive tool, so impressive that even OpenAI in their dev days, maybe, I don't know, a week or two ago, mentioned the NotebookLM tool in, I think, Sam Altman's interview. And they also praise it as a really good product. So I would really love to see more AI-based great products out there, because, if it's smart, it doesn't mean that it's fun to use, but this is really fun to use. So it was built by a small agile team within Google Labs, and the future includes broader application, mobile expansion, and deeper user engagement. So I really look forward to further multimodality, like where I'll be able to even generate a video from certain type of content, a text or audio or whatever other media format they would support. And I think that this doesn't kind of take away a piece of market from any AI tools that I'm currently using the most, which are at the moment Perplexity, Anthropic Claude, and ChatGPT for this kind of usage. And it just enriches the kind of scope of tools that are available to us. I'd like to announce the kind of subject for my next Wednesday's live stream, which will be more slightly oriented towards the programming audience. So I don't know if you heard about it, but there's this AI SDK built by Vercel company. And Vercel is this company that mainly hosts JavaScript applications built on modern frameworks, and they are the authors of Next.js framework, which is the most popular React framework right now. And I've tested the AI SDK a bit, and it's really easy to build AI-driven applications with this. It's mostly oriented towards JavaScript, but I think, we might say that JavaScript is fairly simple language for any programmer that did programming in any other language. And I think that you will find this next episode really interesting. So until next time, I salute you. Take care. Maybe there are some questions from the audience. Well, I tried to connect the chat to the OBS studio to get the feedback right here. So I'm not really sure if it's actually working, but either it's not working or there are no questions. So I will greet you once again. And all right, there's one question. Yeah, I forgot that there's a slight delay between the live feed and the actual time. So Nemanja asked, as programmers, how can we use NotebookLM for programming? Well, there was this one example where I've showed how you can use a NotebookLM to analyze the API documentation, for instance. But let's say that you are learning a new paradigm or new programming language. You could even, upload the entire book in there, like a PDF for any framework or any programming language, and then get a nice overview of what you're going to learn. I'm not saying that it will learn you shortcut the process of learning, but it will definitely help you to maybe, if you're having second thoughts whether you should learn that or not, maybe you could listen to an 8 or 10 minute episode, like this audio overview of this paradigm or this programming language or whatever. And then, you would get a better sense of whether to go down that path or not. Let me think about some other use cases. Like when you're doing actual programming work, you could just take all of your files. I haven't tried that, but that would probably be fun. Take all of your source files and upload it to NotebookLM if you're not concerned about privacy or data theft. And then have it generate an audio overview of what's going on there. So if you've switched jobs and you have maybe a new, let's say, open source project that you need to work on, because with open source you don't have to be concerned about data privacy issues. And then you upload everything to NotebookLM, and then it just explains you what's going on in this code base. And then you can also, with these other nice tools, play around and get more insight into this new project. So I guess, it's imagination is the limit, and I think that it's a really, really good tool to analyze vast amounts of data. Okay, I guess no more questions. So thank you guys for listening, and tune in next Wednesday. Take care.